T-minus 30 seconds.
DeAndre Hopkins! Justin Jefferson have a day! What a catch! C.D. Lamb! Only this guy, I think. I mean, maybe I'm trying to think of somebody else.
And he hurdles his way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Oh, it's snared for the interception by Kenny Moore!
2, 1, 0.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Final Drive Week 8 edition. Josh Frey-Sam here with you as always. We are usually at the halfway point of the NFL season, but we're technically at 47% of the way through. And that fires me up. I mean, we get an extra game this year in the regular season. Man, this is a big time episode, you guys. If you guys are joining right after Sunday Night Football, appreciate you as always. If you guys are watching the next day or the day after, appreciate you as well. But we got a big episode lined up here today. I got a familiar co-host joining me, my buddy Jelani Goodrich-Reed from Toronto, TO the 6. And then we got Donnovan Bennett from Sportsnet, big time guest coming in today. So without further ado, let me bring in my first guy here, Jelani Goodrich-Reed. What's going on, baby? How you doing?
How's it going, Josh? I'm good. I'm glad to be back on the Final Drive. Let's get it. Cowboys just won, so I'm happy, obviously.
Yeah, man. It's I'm glad I got to have you on right when the Cowboys are in prime time. I didn't actually want to know what. I didn't even time that up either, but like it just happened that I hit you up and then I realized, oh yeah, Cowboys are in prime time. That's good. And Donovan's actually also, I found out today, Donovan is a Cowboys fan. So I got two of you guys to deal with, man. It's two Cowboys versus one Packer tonight. But man, how was your Sunday? Let's start off, man. How was your Sunday as a whole? How did you enjoy week 8 in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, it started with your guys beating the Cardinals. Great, fantastic game on Thursday. I think that's one of the best Thursday night football games we'll ever see. And then this day, we saw a lot of good games. The 1 o'clock window, we saw certain teams win games that we didn't expect, right? We saw teams like the Bengals drop that one in New York. I mean, was anyone really picking New York today? I don't think so. And then, other teams like the Patriots, that was the 4 o'clock window, but that's a good win there in LA, honestly, because you're talking about a team in LA with the Chargers. A lot of people, including myself, think that's one of the better, more explosive offenses in the NFL. And Bill Belichick had a great game plan set up for that and other games. Yeah, so it was a great Sunday. And now we're really seeing, like you said, we're technically at the halfway point in the NFL season now. And now we're really understanding who's real, who's not real. And now the playoff talks really are amping up. And we're talking about wild cards. We're talking about teams that are probably going to win their divisions and represent their divisions. So it's definitely a time of year that we love because we're really seeing who's going to be here for the long run, who's fake, So it was a great Sunday for sure.
Yeah, man. On that note, pardon me. Yeah, who's fake, man? And I mean, we could open up the conversation by talking about the Bengals after that it lost to the Jets. I'm sure that the talks are opening up, man. I just put the Bengals in my top 5 teams in the AFC last week on this show. I put them as the number 5 team, and now, I mean, they dropped this game, so that's a little bit tough, man. But hey, let's start off with Tennessee versus Indianapolis because that was one of the better games on the docket today. 34-31, the Indianapolis Colts ended up dropping this game. And honestly, man, Colts got out to a blistering start in this game, 14-0. They scored on their first 2 possessions on this game, and it was looking like, Tennessee might be in trouble, especially Derrick Henry went down a little bit earlier in the game as well. He started it looked like maybe he was nursing like an ankle or something kind of injury. And then once he went down, everybody is like, now they're really in hot water. But the Colts, I wrote down here in caps, underlined twice, man. They had a chance to make a statement today, and they just didn't. And let me throw a couple stats at you before I let you go off on this game, man, because Carson Wentz at one point in this game had 14 touchdown passes to just one interception on the season. Now he's not putting up MVP numbers or nothing like that right now, but Carson Wentz, he goes 14-1. His biggest issue just last year was the fact that he wasn't able to take care of the football. And now 14-1 on the season at one point. Then the fourth quarter struck and crunch time struck in this game. And he backed up. The Colts were backed up on inside their own 10-yard line. Carson Wentz dropped backs, set up a screen. He could have thrown it into the ground to Jonathan Taylor and just avoided it. And he's trying to make something happen, man. He's trying to make something happen. And he goes and he throws possibly the worst interception that you will see when watching live football. And this thing goes pick six by Elijah Molden, which brought his total up at the end of the day up to 14 touchdown passes to 3 interceptions. And we saw shades of last year's Carson Wentz in this game. What did you see in this game, man? I know you tuned into it. What were your overall thoughts? Carson Wentz, the Colts. What were your thoughts?
I mean, this was a game where the Colts needed it, right? You're looking at the AFC South right now. Texans, not a player. Jaguars, not a player, unfortunately. For those fan bases, sorry, you're not a player in that division. But you're looking at 2 teams. You're looking at the Colts. You're looking at the Titans. It was going to come down to those 2 at the start of the year. Everyone thought that. And if they got a win today, the Colts would definitely have a greater chance to probably win the South. Now their chances get hit, largely. I think that you're looking at Carson Wentz, and I even said it. He's playing good football this year. I mean, again, you're not looking at it from, Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson type, MVP type, perspectives, but you're saying to yourself that he's honestly undergoing a resurrection right now in Indy. And today it was just unfortunate because he had a lot of chances to get these guys the W. He had, circumstances where they were in prime position to either get in the end zone or probably further their drives, but it was just decision-making, right? Decision-making. It really hurt them. You saw Michael Pittman Jr. I love him. I think he's definitely growing, as we go on. I think he's definitely becoming somebody that you consider a wide receiver 1. He had an impressive day, 86 yards on 10 grabs. The Titans, this was a game where we saw them be resilient. They were down, right? But doubled, 2 touchdowns, right? It was 14-point deficit at one point. And this is a team that I know, it's Tennessee. You're not really talking about Tennessee. They're not the glamour franchise, but they're a good team. They've been a good team for the past few years. They are a contender, right? And they're more than just Derrick Henry. Honestly, they are. And we saw that through, A.J. Brown had a huge day in the air. He had 155, I believe, in terms of popping off. So, and I love Ryan Tannehill. I will continue to say he is the most underrated quarterback in pro football right now. I like what he can do. I really do. And they've beaten the 2 teams that were in the 2020 AFC Championship game last year. They go on the road down by more than 1 touchdown, find a way to pull that one out. This is a good team. So I'm really keeping a close eye on Tennessee because next week, huge matchup, Sunday Night Football, the Rams, they're going to LA. So I want to see what the Titans do there. But honestly, at the end of the day, I think this division is kind of locked up given the Titans continue playing good football down the line.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you mentioned a couple points that you brought up there. And yes, the division I think is locked up here. The Colts, like I said, they had a chance today. They had their chance, and we're at the point in the season, like you said, we're starting to separate the contenders from the pretenders, and the Colts are unfortunately leaning toward the side of the pretenders right now. Right. I don't know if anybody ever had them in the contender conversation, but regardless,
I had them being a playoff team this year because I thought that Carson Wentz would have a type of, a resurrection type year, and he would actually lead these guys to the playoffs. But right now it's looking pretty unclear. You have other teams in the wild card race right now, teams from the North, a lot in the AFC West right now. So it's not really too clear right now for Indy. So this is a game that they needed and they dropped it.
No doubt. And on Michael Pittman's note, you mentioned Michael Pittman and how much you love him, man. I like him as well a lot. on the season. If you're in fantasy and he is somehow still out there on the waiver wire, man, I mean, Michael Pittman is at 45 grabs, almost 600 yards and 4 tugs on the year right now. He's having himself a nice year, a nice breakout year. Tennessee, on the note of Tennessee here, because I know we've been talking about the Colts here, just really quickly before we move on. Tennessee was really struggling last year in terms of getting after the quarterback. They went and addressed that in the free agency this year, grabbing Bud Dupree, bringing him in. Now, all of a sudden, the Tennessee Titans actually lead the NFL in pressures with 84. They're 10th with 17 sacks, and they're 3rd in quarterback hurries so far on the season. So that addition of Bud Dupree, you have from the interior, Jeffrey Simmons, and then also on the outside, Harold Landry, who's getting after the quarterback. Tennessee Titans, their defense, although their secondary is still very young, a little bit suspect at times, Tennessee's defense is starting to get after the quarterback and has clearly fixed an issue from last season. They are evolving as a defense. Yep. One question for you, Jelani, before we move on here, and then and maybe we can bring in Donnovan Bennett here right away. Do you think the Colts can still make the playoffs here? Because so their remaining schedule as it stands, the Jets, the Jags, the Bills, Tampa Bay, Houston, they go on a bye, New England, Arizona, Raiders, Jacksonville. Does that sound like a makeable? It sounds like they got about 4 wins in there, maybe between Jacksonville, Texans, and the Jets. Do you think the rest are? Do you think they make enough of a push to sneak into like 6 or 7 seed?
I mean, they do benefit from there being one more team. With the 7th team, I do think they can. They can, if they play up to their potential. They're one of the better teams in the AFC, and we've seen it in terms of their wins on their schedule this year. And they played pretty good football today. It was just certain lapses in play, certain mistakes that really ruined it for them today. I think that those divisional games with Jacksonville and Houston, they're not going to be easy. They're not going to be cakewalks because those are divisional matchups, always tough, always close. But I do see wins there. It's just teams like Tampa, Buffalo, Arizona. Like, come on. I don't really see them winning those. But you know what? There are certain teams that you named there that they could possibly, get some solid wins and much needed wins on their schedule. So yeah, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say they end up finding a way to probably make a push. I'm not going to guarantee that they're a playoff team, but I'll say that they'll be there when we're talking about in the hunt, probably, week 14, 15, 16, they'll be there.
They'll be playing meaningful ball in December is what you're getting at. And I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Okay. We were going to get to one other game here, but you want to know what? Let's bring in our guy here, man. This is big time. We'll get to Tampa Bay, New Orleans right after this, man. We got our guy, and you want to know, John, this is actually a special guy to both you and I. This guy actually brought you and I together here along with a bunch of other people through a mentorship program earlier just this year. This guy's doing a lot of great things in with regards to diversity in sport media, which is where both of us want to get to. So without further ado, let me bring in another guy here from the 6, Mr. Donnovan Bennett.
Yes, sir.
Donovan, how's it going, Ben? Oh, you're on mute. You're hold on. I'll get you off mute. You're okay. Yeah.
What up, fellas?
Good. There he is.
What's going on?
Yes, sir. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah.
How about them Cowboys?
Sorry, Josh.
Dak Prescott, just put that cap on ice. We got this.
Huge win.
I am, I'm outnumbered here tonight, boys. Let's get to this Sunday night football game. Okay, let's recap this game. Cooper Rush, obviously the standout, the headline, the front page news here from this game. 24 of 40, 325, 2 tugs and a pick. He obviously outdueled Kirk Cousins in this game. What do you guys think? Donovan, I'll get your thoughts first. Impressive from Dallas tonight or disappointing from Minnesota?
Oof. I mean, can we say both, to be honest? Can I choose both? We'll start with Dallas. Dak Prescott looked pretty good in the warm-up. I thought he looked good enough to play. They give him an extra week coming off the bye. They go into pretty hostile territory in Minnesota, a team that was 500 coming in, but when you look at all their games, they've all been close. They've all been field goal games. They easily could have had a much better record. And the big dogs stepped up when they had to, with Dak being out. Zeke late with a huge play to get a first down. Cooper goes for over 100. CeeDee Lamb was his favorite target throughout the night, making a lot of big third down conversions. And that's what you need from your all-pro guys. And actually give some flowers to Kellen Moore. You could have played it conservative. You could have just ran the ball, hoped not to make mistakes. The key number that you mentioned on Cooper Rush's line was 40. Your boy threw it 40 times in his first ever start after being a backup for a while. And this is where you are in not even the NFL, in pro football. You need to have a quarterback room to get you through a season. You guys talked about it earlier, a longer season, 17 weeks. We saw Jameis go down. Did you have Trevor Siemian having a big spot today? I certainly didn't. Mike White went ham today. Goes for 400. Only other QB to do that in his first start, Cam Newton, who is sitting on the couch like me and you. So the fact that they used their depth, but their stars showed up, massive win for Dallas. And then when you look at Minnesota, they could have got back into the race for the wild card. The division's pretty much gone at this point. But they mismanaged the clock in their timeouts, let 30-plus seconds go without calling a timeout. Then they called 2 out once, which was a penalty. And when we talked about the big stars showing up for Dallas, Kirk Cousins, you're playing a backup quarterback and you get outplayed. Jefferson, Cook, Thielen had a nice game, but ultimately this was billed as, in Minnesota, they've got their own big three, and they're gonna show out in prime time, and that certainly didn't happen. So yeah, massive loss for Minnesota. Rash Madani, you guys may know, but he hates to love the Minnesota Vikings and personally has an issue with Kirk Cousins. I'm afraid to look at his feed right now because I know he is bent. But massive win for the Cowboys, that number 1 seed and still in play. And the Vikings need to go on a run if they want to think that they're going to get into the wild card.
Go ahead, Jelani.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a crazy game. First of all, look, Dak wasn't there, so I was like, okay, Cooper Rush. I mean, he hasn't played, meaningful football in years, right? So I wasn't sure what Cooper Rush was going to do today. I was really looking forward to seeing the running game. It came up big at certain stretches. We saw Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard, a lot of people are starting to realize he's one of the better RB2s in the league right now in terms of the passing game, running game. He can do it all. And Zeke, I mean, a lot of people, they said Zeke is done. Zeke is washed. I didn't see that today. He had a huge, Donnovan mentioned it, that huge play down the stretch in the red zone. That kept the drive alive. And then we saw the game winner with Cooper. But yeah, no, I think that Minnesota, I think it's more of Minnesota, to be honest, because when I was coming into the year with my predictions, I was like, you know what? Minnesota is going to be the surprise team this year. I thought they would come together. They're healthier this year. That's what I thought. And defense would be there. Defense would show up this season for Minnesota. It hasn't really been the case. And yeah, I mean, you have a guy who hasn't started a game since who knows when, come out here, out-duel Kirk Cousins. I mean, you're talking about them being at home on top of it, right? In that crowd, right? The school, there's so many different parts of this game where Dallas could have came up short, right? And that didn't happen. So I was really impressed with Dallas, obviously being a fan, but I was also sitting back and saying, wow, Minnesota hasn't really come out to play. They have a solid defense. They have guys on that defense that could play. Griffin, you're looking at Smith, Kendricks, right? Barr. So I was very, very surprised that they came up short in this game. And when you're talking about offense, I mean, Kirk Cousins, a lot of people aren't sure about him. A lot of Vikings fans aren't sure. And to be honest with me, I think this is the year where they decide, is he the guy or not, right? And I wasn't too happy with his performance. I wouldn't be happy if I was a Vikings fan, because you even heard the boos. You heard the boos a lot. The Dallas defense, they came to play. A lot of 3-and-outs today. This was a game where, with no Dak Prescott, you would expect Minnesota to come out, put points on the board, right, to really separate themselves in this game. And it was close throughout. So I think this is more on Minnesota. Why? Because this is a game they needed to win to keep pace with the Packers in the division. I do think there's still an opportunity, though, for them to, right the ship and probably make the playoffs as a wild card. That's what I saw them as to begin with. But again, this is a game against Cooper Rush, who you didn't expect to have those Dak type of numbers. He had a Dak type game today. So it was very disappointing. I'd put this more on the Vikings, but a lot of resilience from the Dallas Cowboys. And again, not having your star there. I mean, to pull this one out, to get to 6-1, to really separate, I think the NFC East is, that's not
it's
even
locked.
And now you're really looking, Dallas is really looking at the seedings with Tampa, with Arizona, LA, Green Bay. So this is a team that needed this win just to keep up with those teams, because down the stretch it's going to be very intriguing to see how it plays out.
Well, hold on. Can I ask a question? Who are the a lot of people that aren't sure about Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins is 33 years old. He's been in the league for 9 years. This guy has made $140 million. Well, another 66 guaranteed. My guy is stealing money. I think who is not sure? Like, if you want him to game manage you into a close loss, then he's your guy. But I don't know. What is the signature Kirk Cousins moment? It's him being extra amped, saying, you like that, you like that. I don't even remember what happened in that game. I just remember him saying that. Like, there is no signature moment like, oh yeah, Kirk Cousins won that game. And I'll finish my impromptu rant here. There is a football scouting metric, right? When you're evaluating players, and I actually use this methodology when I'm evaluating a lot of things. When I'm evaluating employees or people trying to come into the company, and this is how it goes: you're evaluating a player, and it's can't win with them, can win despite them, can win with them, or win because of them. I'm not saying you can't win with Kirk Cousins, but you're probably winning despite him, or you're winning with him. You're never winning because of him. You're winning because of Dak Prescott. You're winning because of Patrick Mahomes. You're winning because of Lamar Jackson. I'm not sure if Kirk Cousins ever gets to that last quadrant. And for that reason, I think we kind of already know he is what it is. You have to be perfect around him for you to win. And the Vikings certainly aren't that.
And Donnovan, you want to know what? On that note, let me encapsulate that by referring to a term that I use a lot and that I heard quite some time ago from Daniel Jeremiah, a guy I follow very closely with the NFL. He goes, trucks or trailers. You got your trucks, you got your Mahomes, you got your Dak, you got your Aaron Rodgers, Brady's, of the world, who will pull their team to a victory, like you were talking about. And then you have your trailers who, like you said, despite them, or they need to have that truck, they need to have the other pieces around them in order to help them to the victory. So you got your trucks, you got your trailers at the NFL level. There's really only 5 trucks in the NFL, 6 trucks in the NFL, whatever. The rest are trailers at the end of the day, or just are not good NFL quarterbacks. But that's just to encapsulate exactly what you said. Go ahead.
Well, no, I love that. I'm going to steal that from you via Daniel Jeremiah, trucks or trailers. I love that. But the one thing, as you know, I upset the Cousins family by just coming on here and calling him out his name. The one thing I'll say is he has the self-assessment, which is an incredible skill in life, where I don't think he tries to necessarily be a truck, right? He tries to be a trailer, and that ends up with them losing close football games. But you were talking about someone earlier, Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
And I think in his mind, he looks in the mirror and he sees a truck. But I think he would be better off if he tried to be a trailer for just a little bit and eventually get to a truck level. You mentioned, Daniel Jeremiah, who does a great job breaking down football in that analogy. I've got one for you by a guy I go to for trusted analogy when it comes to all things sport. Dave Chappelle. Carson Wentz is a habitual line stepper. He thinks that he is Patrick Mahomes and I'm gonna throw it left-handed. I'm going down. I'm just gonna throw it, and no one's looking, and he's not. And he also thinks that he's like a crash test dummy, evidently, because he's willing to take licks after licks after licks, and not saying maybe I should just live to like fight another down. So as much as I'm crushing Cousins, suppose it could be worse, Vikings fans. You could have Carson Wentz as your quarterback.
Could be. Guys, let's move on to just Donnovan while we have you here, because I know your time is valuable here. I want to move on from this Dallas and Minnesota game. I want to get into a little bit of maybe predictions, if you guys would. We're at the midway point in the NFL season, or the 47% mark in the season, as I alluded to at the top of the show here. I kind of want to use you mentioned Donnovan earlier, Kellen Moore, and giving him his flowers. Kellen Moore is possibly going to be a coach this time next year, a head coach in the NFL. He is going to be getting his interviews at the very least. Whether he is successful in those interviews remains to be seen. But coach of the year thus far, you guys, in the running, we've got guys like Matt LaFleur, who I could make a case for the next 2 hours about, Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, in my opinion, Brandon Staley with the Chargers, Zach Taylor with the Bengals, and then Cliff Kingsbury, in my opinion, with the Cardinals. Is any of those names sticking out to you? Jelani, I'll start with you. Any of those names sticking out to you in terms of who you think is the coach of the year right now and who will end up winning it? Or is there another name that I left off of that list that you're feeling?
I'm looking at Cliff Kingsbury just with what he's done with the Cardinals. I know they dropped one really intriguing game on Thursday night, but I think honestly, when you're looking at what the Cardinals have been the past few years, and the way they're coming out this year, they're fantastic offensively. They're one of the best teams in the league. And I think, honestly, after what we saw this week with them dropping this one against the Packers, I believe they're going to get right back in the win column and definitely make a run. But I'd either give it to him, probably for NFC, but Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, I know that today, I don't know what happened today. You can't really tell me to describe that. I can't describe what happened in New York. I can't. But what I do know is Cincy is a team that a lot of people weren't like. For me, for example, I didn't see them doing much. I felt like it would be a 2 to 3 year process of them becoming a contender again for a playoff spot. But they might make the playoffs this season. If they do, I definitely give it to them, because you're looking at the draft. A lot of people didn't even want them to get Chase. They wanted Penei Sewell or Darisaw or somebody. Yeah, you told me. So yeah. So when you're looking at that, I think the Bengals are a team when you're looking at their division as well. You're with the Ravens. Excuse me. You're with the Steelers, the Browns. It's a very tough North that they're playing in, a tough division, and you're looking at the AFC, the wild card teams that they're trying to battle with. So if they could find a way to continue this run, they're at 5-3, pretty nice record for the the start of the season. A lot of people again didn't think that they'd even be over 500 right now. And Joe Burrow having a nice year with Chase, with Mixon. I think Mixon really underrated. Honestly, he's a great running back. T. Higgins. So they have a good squad there. The defense has come up huge this year, and that's Zach Taylor right now, his influence on that defense and the improvements we've seen from that defense. So I give it to Zach right now. But with that being said, they have to keep this up, right, down the stretch. I mentioned it earlier. We're trying to separate the real teams from the fake teams. Are the Bengals actually for real? Can they actually make a run? That's where Zach Taylor comes in. Can he find a way to get these guys playing some solid football down the stretch and during the second half of the season? But yeah, I give it to Zach right now, but Cliff Kingsbury does get a nod too.
Donnovan.
Yeah, lots of good, rationale from you on Zach Taylor. So I won't continue to belabor that point, because to your point, nobody saw the Bengals coming in. I will push back on Kingsbury a little bit. One, I mean, they won a game. My guy was at home on the couch with us. So I don't know how valuable he is. But I think when I look at the Cardinals and what they've done, I think it's more about the GM, Steve Keim, and what he's given Cliff Kingsbury. We had expectations on the Cardinals for a while. They're just finally meeting those expectations. But look what they did in the offseason. They bring in James Conner to fortify that running game. A.J. Green, another veteran in that wide receiver group. he's out for the year. But J.J. Watt really solidified the defense, specifically that run defense. Yeah. So they got some more leadership to support the young head coach and the young voice, and now they've got leaders in that room. So I love what Steve Keim did. I'll give you some other head coaching names, and maybe they're being slept on a little bit because we've mentioned them and given them love before, but we should give them love for the job they're doing this year. If the Bills end up with the number 1 overall seed in the AFC, you need to give Sean McDermott some love. What he's done with that team, because they're not just beating people. They were smashing people, like college homecoming type numbers they were putting up in the NFL where everybody is getting paid. So McDermott certainly did a great job, and they took it to the Chiefs. And another one is Harbaugh in Baltimore. Name a skill position player other than Lamar Jackson who wasn't hurt. They've lost a full season of running backs already for the season. So the fact that he kept that group together, kept them engaged, and kept them playing well, and they've got a shot to be a playoff team once again in a really competitive AFC. If they keep this up, I like Harbaugh as well.
And those all everybody you guys mentioned are obviously candidates for a reason as it stands right now. I know that the reason why I'm bringing this up as well, I think I got a little bit flustered myself just after watching the New Orleans Saints game. I've been sitting here for 2 years now talking about Matt LaFleur being an NFL coach of the year after going to 2 back-to-back 13-3 seasons, back-to-back NFC championship games. Still doesn't even get, because he's got Aaron Rodgers. That's why he's not getting that love. But
Aaron Rodgers doesn't even like him. So why should I like him? He doesn't like him.
Well, okay, here's the thing here. Sean Payton, he got a lot of love today after the game because Trevor Siemian led them to a victory over TB12. But I'm kind of sitting here going the Packers, and here's my quick advocate for Matt LaFleur here. You got Zadarius Smith, an all-pro caliber player, Jair Alexander, an all-pro caliber player, out. You got Preston Smith, who a great player as well in his own right. Kevin King is out as well. Marquez Valdes-Scantling was out. Devontae Adams was out for Thursday Night Football as well. They're missing David Bakhtiari, an all-pro left tackle at a premier position. Now Josh Myers as well. Their starting center has been out as well. Like, we're talking about premier positions, cornerback, left tackle. Okay, Devontae Adams, one of the best overall football players in the NFL, right? You're talking about the starting center. Okay, the constant that they have is outside of a few pieces on defense is Aaron Rodgers, right? That's who they have, right? And Aaron Rodgers can mask a lot of the mistakes for you. But the fact that Matt LaFleur was able to scheme a way to beat the last undefeated team in the NFL, I just if he is not in the conversation right now, like it just makes absolutely zero sense in my mind. Let's transition from Coach of the Year to MVP before we let you go, Donovan. Who's your guys' MVP as it stands right now? Because it is murky right now. And a couple, you know what, Jelani, who's your MVP right now?
I initially thought it was Justin Herbert until he dropped one in Baltimore against my pick, Lamar Jackson. And we pointed it out earlier. Why? Because the IR knows everyone on that roster right now. The Ravens, like, when you're looking at the NFL, is there a team that relies on one guy, on one man, like the Ravens do? No, I don't see it. I think Lamar Jackson is that guy, and he's done it on, we know about the ground. We know that he could run the football, blah, blah, blah. But he's really shutting up the haters. He could throw the football, guys. He could do it. Look at the numbers right now. Top 10, top 5 in all these categories, important categories in passing and in rushing. He's leading these guys to potentially a first seed. That's not out of, the possibility, right? They could get it done. They're probably going to make a run during the playoffs. I see them better than plenty of teams in the AFC right now. So yeah, for the same reasons we pointed out, possibly Harbaugh getting the Coach of the Year, you could say Lamar Jackson, because he's uplifted this team coming into the year with all the injuries that they had. The question was, could they even last? Could they even get to 500? There were so many uncertainties on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively. And when you're looking at it from the grand scheme of things, I just don't see, like, it's most valuable, right? Valuable. And I think that Lamar Jackson has proven that he's so valuable to this team. And it's another thing that his numbers have actually looked a lot better than the year that he had in 2019 when he won the MVP. He's improved all areas of his game. He's great in terms of passing now. And the question of, is he a passer? Can he be? That's gone now. He's definitely reliable in that area as well. So yeah, and wins against the Chiefs and these guys, like these are big wins on their schedule that he's gotten. So I'm giving it to Lamar right now.
Okay, that's fair. Donnovan, who do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to put both you guys up on game and tell you a little bit about this media industry because it's not a meritocracy. The awards don't get to the people who deserve them. They get to the people who we want to talk about in the media. We vote, we decide, and so it is all about narrative. And so, Josh, to your point about Matt LaFleur, maybe he deserves some more love, but who didn't expect the Green Bay Packers to run away with the NFC North? They're far away better than the teams in their division. So if they end up with a 1 seed, maybe LaFleur will be in that conversation, but until then, they're not. And Jelani, you said rhetorically, is there anyone else who means more to their team other than Lamar? And the answer is obviously yes. It's King Henry, Derrick Henry, because everything they do, not only on offense, but keeping that atrocious defense off the field, is predicated on Derrick Henry, the tempo, the style, the energy that defense gets from him. They have a couple bouncers on their offense, Julio and Brown and Derrick Henry, who will all just throw you up out the club. But Henry is the guy who week in, week out, 1, is in the lineup and healthy, and 2, is winning your fantasy week for you and making sure they actually win real football games. Henry is the guy. And there are so many quarterbacks that are having great years, statistically great, up 1 week, but then they're down another. Burrow has been lights out. You mentioned Herbert. Kyler Murray had a blip, but he's been really good. Aaron Rodgers is having another monster year. Outside of the turnovers, Mahomes is still putting up numbers. And you mentioned Lamar, and we haven't even mentioned the GOAT. So all of those guys are going to steal votes from each other. Henry, by far and away, is the best player at his position. He could lap the other running backs by the end of the year. He could go for 2,000 this year. And so it's not just about the fact that Lamar is having a better year than when he won the MVP. Steph Curry had a better year statistically last year than when he won his unanimous MVP. But the narrative has shifted. And so for all of those reasons, I think Derrick Henry is going to be the guy at the end of the year with the MVP trophy.
It's tough to argue with both of you guys because, like you guys said, both those guys are so valuable because they touch the ball so often, right? Obviously, Lamar Jackson being the quarterback is going to touch the ball every single play. But when I mean touch the ball, I mean actually is handling the ball every single play, right? As a runner, as a passer, he is doing it all. So Lamar Jackson, it's tough to argue with that, Jelani. And then, like you said, Donnovan, the only thing I'll say on Derrick Henry is with a running back getting the MVP, he's going to have to, like, if Derrick Henry gets the MVP, like, it is history, like, record-breaking numbers that he's putting. Like, I'm talking he is far and away above 2,000 yards. I'm talking he is at, maybe pushing 500 touches on the year or something. Like, he is going absolutely maybe 20 plus touchdowns, whatever. Like, he is going to have one of those years where it is like a LaDainian Tomlinson when he broke the touchdown record, right? Like, just one of those years that you are going to be talking about forever, right? And so that's the challenge of winning the MVP as a running back as opposed to a quarterback. It's obviously a quarterback award, as we know, but man, if Derrick Henry wins it, I'm going to say that Matthew Stafford, as it stands right now, and the reason why Tom Brady I probably had at the top of this list. Statistically, Tom Brady probably is the MVP right now. But Matthew Stafford, what he's doing, his team's record, combined with the fact that second in passing yards, second in passing touchdowns, he is 118 passer rating right now, and he has 4 INTs compared to Brady's 5 right now. So right now, as it stands, he's behind Brady in the passing yards and the passing touchdowns. But he is less INTs than Brady's, turning over the ball less, has a higher passer rating than Brady right now. I think Matthew Stafford, as it stands right now, would actually be my pick, and especially to go with the record, like I mentioned. I think, what are the Rams right now? 6-1, 7-1, something like that. I think 7-1. I think Matthew Stafford, and that is a guy who is finally getting some love this year after, man, so many years of just being so underrated, man, in Detroit there. Donnovan, I think that's it, man. Thank you times 1,000, man, for hopping on. You've been great, and man, I guess we will hopefully have you on maybe another time, man.
Yeah, anytime the Cowboys win, I'm happy to come on.
Yes.
Hey, thank you for having me. No worries, you guys both are killing it. Both of you, proud of you, love listening to you, and love learning from you. So keep doing it. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Donovan. Take care, man. All right, Jelani, we got a few more minutes here. That was awesome having Donovan on here. Okay, I wanted to switch real quick. Actually, we didn't get to talk about this Saints and this Saints and Bucks game real quick. Let's get to this real quick. So 36-27. Tom Brady. Actually, first off, Jameis Winston torn ACL and MCL this year, man. Right on this game. That's tough. Did you see the post-game celebration in the Saints locker room?
Oh my gosh. Anything he does is so funny. I love the part of that. He was in there, man. He was moving, he was grooving. Shout out to Jameis for real. I'm so excited
with the crutches just moving all over, man. That I was crying. That was ridiculous. Okay. Bucks. Okay. Bucks. Actually, this was a tale of two halves for Tom Brady, though. Bucks had 7 points at halftime. Brady was 1 touchdown, 1 interception at halftime, under 100 yards passing, I'm pretty sure. Then he comes out in the second half, 3 touchdown passes. But it ends in a loss because he couldn't lead the game-winning drive. Here's a quick stat I'll throw at you. Tom Brady's 2-4 in his career versus Saints in the Sean Payton era. Also, since joining the Buccaneers, 7 interceptions for Brady in 3 games against the Saints. They have his number when it comes to the turnovers. And also, well, they beat him today, so they have his number. Sean Payton was able to dial up a game plan. We already alluded to it earlier. He was able to dial up a game plan with Trevor Siemian, who went for 16 of 29, $159, and a tug today. Quick question, man. Who wins this division? This is separating by 1 game now in this division. And the Saints have the tiebreaker here. Notable games that I'll throw at you when you're making this decision. The Bucks versus the Bills and versus the Saints. Everyone else on their schedule is sub 500 to go the rest of the season. The Saints versus Dallas, your Cowboys versus the Bills, and then at Tampa Bay are their key matchups on the rest of their schedule. Who wins the NFC South?
I mean, the Saints could, but I got to look at the quarterback position, man. And when you have a real good quarterback, Jameis Winston, I think he was playing good football this year. Even though he's up and down, I just think, honestly, you can't really put too much stock into the Saints as it stands right now. And we don't know how it's going to look like. I think that Taysom Hill is going to clear concussion protocol probably next week, so he returns. We'll see how that works out. I think he's probably going to be the better option moving forward than Simeon. Simeon had a good day. But yeah, no, when you're looking at the Saints, their defense, I will give them a lot of credit. Their defense is no longer the days of Drew Brees leading this team. It's really the defense leading this team. And then you're looking at the offense. You have Kamara and those guys, but it's the defense that wins them these games like we saw today. So that could probably propel them to a division crown, but I just don't see it. Why? Because Tampa Bay with the GOAT is playing fantastic football. What is he, 44? Like, really? Is he?
Stupid.
I got to look at the birth certificate just to see if that's real, because he looks like a robot. And he doesn't really need to do too much. Why? Because he has all these weapons. Godwin, Evans. I know AB was out, but then you look at Gronk, he also left the game. But you have so many options for you on this offense. Yeah. I don't see a way that they fold. I don't see a way. And the defense, they had a slow start to the year, but they're trying to find their way. And I think that Todd Bowles will get these guys playing really, really good football down the stretch. We saw this last year. They started slow, and then the defense woke up closer to playoff time, and the rest is history. So yeah, give me the Bucks right now. I can't put too much stock in the Saints because of the injury. Without the injury, maybe I might have more of an argument for the Saints.
Yeah. And I wholeheartedly agree with you, man. I absolutely do. I just don't see the way the Saints can keep this. Like, yeah, they're, like you said, like they won this game, so it was an impressive victory. But in terms of their stock, like you mentioned, where's their arrow pointing? it's flatlining a little bit. You know what I mean? Well, let's see if they can actually survive. It almost seemed like maybe they were surviving at times in this season with Jameis Winston taking over. Anyways, they've had some good moments, and they've outperformed my expectations. I saw the Saints as going under 7 wins this year, or maybe 7-8 wins this season is what I saw the Saints as. Yeah, so I mean, they're outperforming what I've expected so far. Let's go from winning a division to a team that's completely out of the division here, just to wrap things up here tonight. The Cincinnati and New York Jets game, man. So we don't need to talk about the Bengals here. I mean, we could, but we don't need to. I mean, that was bad. That was a bad loss for them, man. But I still believe in the Bengals as it stands right now. I think that this is a team that still has shown me enough to the point where they can make a playoff push here. I'm getting to a wild card seed. Mike White obviously went crazy today. Joe Burrow threw a crucial late interception with 4 minutes left in the game to give the Jets hope. Ultimately ended up winning this game, which was awful. Mike Hilton got called on what was a controversial hit to the helmet.
Bad call.
You want to know what? Here's the thing as well is I agree with you. I think that was a bad call. Like, I personally wouldn't have called it at that point in the game. But at the same time, yeah, like, I mean, he lead with the crown of his helmet? Yes, but at that point,
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
because I'm looking at it from the perspective of, like, because I played defense as well. What else am I supposed to do?
What are you supposed to do?
You're going low, not too low, not trying to get the knees or anything. He was making a football tackle. He was trying to making a football play. It just so happened that the runner of the ball, he led with his helmet. He actually initiated the contact. So when looking at it from replay and when you slow it all down, it's really like live time. It's bang bang. So you're going to probably say, okay, defense, right? That's where the flag is supposed to be. But you have the element of replay and you see it for what it is. The offense, right? That was the initiator of the contact. I don't think that was the proper call. And after that, the game was over, right? So I think refs this year, they've been a bit, sketchy, wanting to dictate, wanting to have their presence felt. I don't think this was the right time for that. And honestly, it was a bad call. Terrible.
I agree with you. There's no chance of making that call in that situation of the game. That is the ref influencing the game at that point, and that's not good. But where I was going with that, okay, is obviously great performance by Mike White. The Jets, congratulations on that upset victory. Bengals, yikes. Moving on to next week. But my question off of that, who's the worst team in the NFL in your mind right now?
Houston. I know that Detroit has not had a win on their schedule, but I just they came up flat today against Philly. I don't know what happened.
That was embarrassing.
My upset pick today, Detroit. I thought you guys would come through for me on the spread, and in the pick'em, you didn't. Anyway, I think that Detroit is, when you're looking at the first 7 games they played, they're not really a winless team. They've been in really, really close games. I like what Dan Campbell has done with the culture in Detroit. He actually has them playing very, very hard. They don't have the personnel to hang with all these teams in the league. But the fact of the matter is, teams like the Ravens, they nearly had the Ravens. If it wasn't for a 4th and 19, they win that game. If it were maybe a pick in the red zone against the Rams, they might have beaten the Rams. Hello, is this mic on? That is one of the teams that we're going to see probably vie for a Super Bowl appearance. So when I'm looking at it, you don't have a guy like Stafford, who I think is very underrated. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. You have Jared Goff trying to prove himself. You have DeAndre Swift. I think he's a very good runner of the football. And their defense, they have some nice players. But, they don't have the personnel. But yet we see them playing really, really tough football. So I don't think they're that bad. They're not really what the record indicates. They should have 2-3 wins on their schedule. Houston, on the other hand, I don't see anything happening in Houston. First of all, I don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. Look, I don't want to get too much into that, but he's not on the exempt list. He's not like why is he just rotting in there? I don't know what the organization is really thinking, and I don't know if they're going to even trade him by the deadline, which is I think this week. So that's one thing. The other thing is Davis Mills, rookie quarterback, trying to get his feet wet in the league. it's a lot of growing pains right now. And I think that with Tyrod Taylor, if he was still there, the ship would be better. I think everything would be better. He would ride the ship to greater games, greater performances. But we haven't seen that. I don't know what's really going on with the roster construction. I feel bad for David Culley right now because coming into this franchise, you think you're getting Hopkins, JJ. No, they're none of them are there. That's not there either. He's coming into a crapshoot. I think that Houston, honestly, they're a donation franchise. They're a donation organization who gives off their best players. They just got rid of Mark Ingram. We saw the frustration from Brandon Cooks on social media. He was like, what's going on over here? So I'm looking at it from on-field to off-field issues. I'm looking at the Texans as a whole, and I'm like, man, where do they go from here? Where do they start? Right? I think that's the team right now. Detroit winless, but I think they play harder than Houston.
And I love that analysis. I absolutely do. I'm gonna actually go with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I just can't watch this team. Like I'm sitting there and I'm wearing my OSU.
Shout out Urban.
Shout out Urban, man. I'm wearing my OSU sweater tonight, but like, oh my God, man. Like I'm watching this team and like the play calling, like James Robinson gets hurt, which doesn't help their cause. But like, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, actually, he didn't have his best game today, but like Trevor Lawrence actually on the season, he's been playing well. Like he's actually been really good this year. But I mean, just some of the play calling and like some of the decisions that are being made by Urban Meyer and like all the scandals that are happening outside. You want to talk about on and off the field issues, like the things that are going on. I just don't see him being back next year. I think that he's gone after this year. Maybe he's gone mid-season. David Culley, on the other hand, is a guy who, I could see him being back next year. Dan Campbell could see he'll probably be back next year. But no, I do agree with you that the Lions, I don't think they're the worst team in the NFL right now, even though their record does suggest they are. But yeah, I'm gonna say Jacksonville and then Houston as a 1B for me in that. Like I actually have a futures pick on Houston finishing last in the NFL. So I'm hoping that you are right.
It's
very, very, very possible. With that being said, do you think that the Houston Texans end up with the number 1 pick?
I do think so. And we'll see where they go with that pick. Do they believe in Davis Mills or do they see someone in the draft? I don't really know. It's not a good quarterback draft that we're seeing here. So
it's dicey.
It's a tough year to be in that position, but we'll see what happens. Honestly, they need talent. So whatever they end up getting, right? But the point that you made about the Jags is good because they're really problematic as well. I do like Trevor Lawrence right now. I know the wins aren't there, but he's playing some good football. But Urban Meyer, I mean, it's funny because guess who I wanted to be the new Dallas Cowboys head coach at one point? I wanted Urban Meyer in the door. It was either him or Lincoln Riley that I wanted, but that didn't happen. But there's just so many issues, and you think you have a successful career in college. It doesn't always translate. We've seen that before, time and time again. Guys think that they can bring it to the NFL. NFL is a whole new game. Like he said, it's Alabama every week. So, Jags, a lot of issues.
Yeah, man, no doubt about it. Okay, man, I think that's it. I know it's getting late over there, man. You got to get to bed. You got man, you got to get to bed or something like that, man. I got to get to bed. I got to do some homework here before I go to bed. But Jelani, as always, man, appreciate you big time, bro. And man, definitely want to have you on before the season's over. So at least one more time.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you. Those of you that have tuned into the final drive once again, for Jelani Goodrich-Reed, thank you very much again, man. I'm Josh Frey-Sam. We will see you guys next week where hopefully we have once again another great guest on. Take care, man.